So, I think we had a long day in the exciting symposium trying to think about how and what can we do in order of changing the future. In the morning we saw that some of us think the present is okay, some of us think it's not okay, some people are optimistic, some people are pessimistic, but we are the people here that would like to change the world. We all do research, but we all do not settle for publishing our papers. Each of us is involved in actually doing things and trying to change something. So I'd like each of you to think, what's the most important thing you would recommend all of us to start doing in order to change and have this present become our future? Professor Heckman, what's the most important thing for making this change? What should we do tomorrow morning?
Wake up.
Wake up and wake up and.
Well, I mean, I hate to say that one thing to do. There's so many things to do. That's why. But I think the theme that's emerged is probably, that we should think much more broadly about what it is to, develop people. I think that's what we all were saying, right? And they're very broad, and think about people outside of. I think the danger, we're here at a university, although I guess university is there, so. Right? But I mean, there's a danger, a benefit of academic specialization. Naturally, you think of certain categories and you think in certain ways. But in this process of human development and understanding how you create opportunities and give people opportunities, I think we have to be very flexible. So I'm thinking what we should do is think very broadly about how you engage people and teach people, engage them. So it's not shaping them, it's kind of giving them opportunities.
Education.
Well, but I wouldn't call it traditional education. What I would talk about is kind of engaging individuals. It's kind of what I was talking about, parenting and scaffolding. It's really an interactive process, and it's not so much that you're telling them what to do. Like you were saying, that's partly they're telling you what to do, and then you kind of. So I think in the end, what's going to happen is probably some kind of personalized version, if you want to call it education, but interaction, parenting, and that becomes a very different notion. It's not like, there is a set of rules we need to apply. Here we kind of adapt to situations, and there are individuals, and I think each individual would probably, in the end, it would be very nice if we could, that's what mothers do frequently, right? They adapt to each little kid. They kind of, and some kids don't have that option. So I think that society is getting better able to understand the individuality and adapt to it, and then recognize the multiple skills. So instead of asking everybody to pass a test or do one thing, to say there are millions of things that are valuable, and self-fulfillment is multiply defined. So I think that's what I would think of, is kind of think broadly, not in a narrow way. So.
Well, I think that perhaps I will be rephrasing some of what you said, but we need to innovate. I mean, innovate in our approach to social issues, to poverty, and to equality of opportunity, and so forth. I am very dissatisfied with the social sciences because the most of them are stuck conceptually in terms of how we think of social issues, and they don't feed enough policy. And that's one. And the second is that the range of presentations were very interesting because it goes from very basic research, the equivalent of the CERN, the accelerator in Switzerland. I mean, what you do, I'm saying that what Jim Heckman has been doing for years is the equivalent of what in physics what we do at CERN the accelerator there. I mean, it's basic. And that kind of provides the platform. And then, I can build on that and try to do policy, government policy. And then, initiatives that also from academia and hands-on, social work and what you do with music. And I think that the message is very clear. I mean, there is no one size fits all. There is no silver bullet. We need the whole range of approaches, of different skills of people involved. Nobody has the monopoly of the truth or the magic wand to solve these issues. But what I want to point out also is that as societies become more developed in some sense, higher standards of living and so forth, there are many more people that are capable of acting. Once upon a time, policy was the realm of a very few Oxford, Cambridge educated people, and those that were doing good was only a very small class that could afford to do that. Nowadays, I mean, in Israel, for example, the number of NGOs is unbelievable. The number of young people involved in doing good, without cynicism. In Israel, kind of cynicism prevails, and people try to dismiss. But no, there is a lot. So there are many more resources, not in the sense of tax money, but in the sense of human resources to be able to do. And there are lots of energies. So I think the secret is to recognize that, to enable those positive energies to be channeled into all these different areas of action.
That's not what the university wishes her to do.
Yes,
she wants
but
her student to go
yes,
to Knesset,
but I must tell you that most of my papers I write in English and in Hebrew. It's not in the CV, of course, but it's there in order to influence the social workers and other communities that the access to Hebrew is much more easier for them. I think that I have two main things to say. One of them is the importance that you talk about the family, the importance of the family. But I think how we can help the family, how we can help the mothers to do the right jobs or the right task with their children. And this is what I think, like as a social worker or social work academic, is how can we influence their environment of the family and the mothers and fathers, that they can contribute, can invest time to educate their children. So the policies that will help the family to establish the good education that you spoke about is very important. And the second thing is that we neglect the poverty underneath or under a lot of problems that we see. And in the social services, it's very clear that sometimes we don't see the poverty, that it's underlying a lot of other problems that we can see. Like I said earlier, like parental dysfunctioning, that it's so huge. This is the main, now, according to the last data, it's the main cause that people come to the social services. They don't come because they say, I'm not a good parent, but the social services categorize them that the reason for coming for the service is dysfunctional parenting. But it's not the case. Dysfunctional parenting is the consequences of very hard life in poverty in terms of income, housing, and so on. So if I wanted to contribute these two issues, to see the poverty more clearly and in the front, and to see the family and how we can help the family, the parents, to to facilitate their ability to invest in their children's life.
Can I make a response? I just want to make one response. I completely agree that poor people are under great stress. But when you were mentioning in your talk about the Great Society, I think, 50 years ago now, a little more, Lyndon Johnson opened the Great Society. And the idea was to try to improve the mobility and opportunity for people across generations, Civil Rights Acts, a number of things. But one thing was the expansion of welfare, the reduction of poverty. And there was a real reduction of poverty in the United States in the period 64 to, say, 72, 73, when the program started being cut back. So there was a reduced inequality. But then, and this is something that I think was founded factually, so this is not a matter of ideology, it turned out that if you ask what was the next effect of this on the next generation, that was the hope of Johnson, that transferring money and resources, it didn't change what many people thought was a culture of poverty. That was serious. And in fact, in some sense, it could create a culture of poverty. That people, instead of escaping, which is what Johnson's great hope was, it didn't. And that's what led Clinton, President Clinton, to change the Welfare Act and to do this. So I would be careful. I mean, I agree, money, I mean, there's a book by Mullen Eitan and his co-author talking about the poverty, poverty having consequences. But poverty can also arise from precisely these other sort of lacks of skills. But I do worry about this dependence issue and whether or not we really were able. I really don't know if it's just money. I think in many situations we've seen very poor people.
It's not just money, but you need money, and you need, if you are one parent family and you are a woman that needs to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning in order to come to your work at 7 o'clock without a good bus that they can take you, you can't invest time in the morning to prepare your children to go to school. And then after school, you need to come back. At the end of the work is at 4 o'clock, but there is no good bus, so you come home only at 5 or 5:30, and there is no long day care for the children. So where are the children from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock?
I think Gideon can tell you where
Sure.
the children are because it sounds
Yeah, this is a huge question, and I can address it to our fellow academics, to my fellow citizens, and to citizens of the world. And poverty is one of the biggest issues. Academically, I would argue that poverty is not just a given condition, something to be dealt with. Poverty is a creation. At this very moment, people are making decisions that will lead to more poverty. At this very moment, somebody's deciding to eliminate Levinsky Park and build something there. To take the central bus station and give it to the Batsheva dance troupe to build a high-class, high-culture location right in the heart of the poverty. Somebody decided to take buses and send refugees of all places to South Tel Aviv. It's a conscious decision, it's a practical decision, it's street-level bureaucracy, it's government leadership, and it's ideology, all leading to those things, and those are happening right now. By the time we wake up, those decisions we made, then we can study the consequences. But maybe it's time to study the impoverishers, not the poverty. Poverty, right, we have to deal with poverty and solve its problems, and it's a humanistic issue, and we have to help people. But how did we get there? It's happening in front of our eyes at this very moment, and I encounter it every day. I'm not even sure what to do about it. It's an academic question. It's a question of activism at all levels of our poverty concerns, whether it's Israeli citizens or outsiders or Arab citizens of Israel who are being sent to live in gentrification in Jaffa, for example. At this very moment, people are gentrifying the Arab part of Jaffa and sending the Arab Israeli citizens to live in Ramle Lod, which is a disaster area. It's happening right now in front of us. That's poverty. That's something to study. Second, the question as academics we should ask ourselves, as generally citizens, is why are we doing what we're doing? To publish, to make a career, to what is the real reason? Is there some kind of world we're trying to accomplish? And I think anybody, whether an academic or street activist, should ask themselves, why am I here? For example, one of the most interesting issues for me in the work I do is not so much, it is of course with the people who are suffering, but with the volunteers, the Israeli volunteers who come, and I ask them, why are you here? That's the most interesting question. And somebody says to me, well, I'm here because it's, I'm a rich person, it's a humanistic question, we have to help the poor people suffering, these foreigners, and of course, there's not enough of them that will contaminate our society. So I say, oh, that's interesting. You just sound like Harav Kahana. That's your ideology. If you want to change something, ask yourself, what is the logic of it? Why should refugees be allowed to stay? Not because we're nice. Maybe we need to redefine our citizenship criteria. Maybe we need to challenge the fundamental ideological structures of the state. Who's allowed to be here? Not because somebody's suffering, we're going to let them stay and ignore the question. It's a deep question. Who are we and what is the principle? If you don't have a principle, then they're going to win because our authorities have a principle. They know what they're doing. They're not even hiding it, and I respect them. On the side that I'm affiliated with, people don't have principles. When they do something, go and lie in Rothschild Avenue and wait till the first rain, and when it starts raining, they move to Berlin. That's how to lose a war. So the question I would ask academics, activists, why are we doing what we're doing, and what is the world we're trying to accomplish on some kind of value principle?
So maybe that should lead us to the next symposium, and there are many questions we should ask. And our new logo is Searching the Unknown, and
Can I say something?
sure.
My
Come here anyhow, you should be here in a second.
my voice is not very loud, but I will try to speak up. I work with Tammie Ronen as the director of Sulamot. We work together for a long time. And I'm a musician. I worked all my life with outstanding talents. And 6 years ago, I was exposed to the world of poverty and children at risk. I didn't know what it is. And I came to this system completely objective. I came to teach young children play. And my impression of the social system, and I sympathize very much with the Professor Weiss-Gal, Idit, with the things that you say, I would like to say it in very simple words, non-professional words. My impression is that our problem is moral, that the system lacks compassion towards the children, the mothers. We don't see these people. We use words such as the disadvantaged, unprivileged. These people don't get compassion. The girl that you're going to see in the movie in 5 minutes, she was supposed to sing here today. Now she's in the hospital. We arranged a meeting with the doctor for her. She was born without eyes, and children who are born without eyes usually have epilepsy. But our system didn't give her MRI test. She lives here. She was born in Israel. Okay, she's not Jewish, but she's here. You're going to see this girl standing in front of 18,000 people and singing. She didn't get an MRI test to diagnose her epilepsy to get the right